computer today is a little slow. Okay, everyone, welcome to our discussion for this. We will study about layoff and employment at will and exceptions. We will start asking about employment and will and exceptions. Jennifer, can you, what is the branch of implied contract?
The branch of implied contract?
What is an implied contract? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. What is then explain the employment at will and the exception in one. Exception is contract. There are different kinds. The exception, and this is one. Everyone need tell me one different kind of exception than during this week.
Do you want me to start?
Thank you.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. I did 13 stuff.
There was a lot of reading this week.
Yeah,
I just read week 13.
Here, how about do you want me to go ahead and summarize the reading? A quick little run through. Get everyone reminded of what happened.
There are
Nope.
when there are contracts between employees and employer, laws for situation that establish when need finished. In some situation, the majority, the employer can firing you in the moment that they want, but there are exceptions for exceptions. Charlene, can you tell me about the first section about the implied contract?
Okay, so if you're in an at-will state, even though it's considered at-will and either one of you could terminate employment, breach of implied contract kind of protects the employee, because if you've been there a long time, or if you're getting raises or bonuses or promotions, or if they've told you you're doing a great job, then that would be a breach of an implied contract. Those things imply that you have a contract. And I guess it would be for a year. Mm-hmm. So that.
Continue.
So.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Yes, it's the law can protect employees unfair life. Sometimes the other than we read this week was a branch of implied covenant of good faith dealing. Can you tell me about this?
Sure. The good faith one, I think, is where they're trying to deny you benefits through your employment. Like they try and lay you off so they don't have to pay you sales commissions. Or if you try and take sick leave, they'll try and lay you off. So it's not being fair to you because you earned those things.
Okay, thank you. Violation of public policy. Sierra, can you tell me about this?
That's when somebody tries to fire you because you won't break the law.
Mm-hmm. Somebody asks you to do things that is unlawful? manager asks to you to say something wrong about one person or show one important or show the company firing you because you doesn't want to do this kind of action. And this is unlawful because you are trying to do the right things. Try to fire you for this reason that can protect you about fighting in that moment. That we study in past class is about discrimination. Can you tell me, Jennifer, about this kind of thing at will and exceptions?
I'm only getting about every other word that you're saying. I can't, it keeps cutting out.
Okay.
Are you guys hearing it okay? Do I need to log back in?
It's hard. I think there's internet issues over there. Hey, do you want to try maybe if you turn off your video and just do your voice, Gina? Maybe we can hear you better.
Okay.
Sorry.
Then I believe my internet is so slow. I had some trouble to connecting and review information this morning. My internet is very slow. I don't know why. Can you hear me better? Or I can try another computer. I don't know.
I can hear you.
So far, that sounds a little better. So.
Okay. The last section is about discrimination status. Is laws of anti-discrimination fighting for race, origin, nationality, or gender, or religion that we study in the past classes? Is some laws that protect the individual, the employee, this situation. There is the Disability Act or age discrimination. Discrimination is the exception is about. Okay. For the next step, we will speak or study the case of a study. In this case, we will speak about Terry and Phil. Yes, and we will ask some questions about both. For the first, Sierra, can you hear me? Can you open the activity for later student in your computer? Go to the class.
Open what?
Open the link with the leader, discussion leader. Then you can follow my question.
Okay. Yeah.
It's list, and you can, if you cannot listen well for the sounds, you can understand what is the question. We will start the step 2.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Charlene, can you tell Jennifer, please? Can you tell Jennifer that, because she can hear me well?
Okay, sure. So Jennifer, what she wants us to do is log in the discussion leader page and follow along with the questions in case we can't hear her.
Gina. Hey, Gina, do you mind if I go ahead and do a quick summary of the readings so that Jennifer can catch up since she read real quick?
So I did lesson 13. I did all the quizzes. I thought I was like, sweet. Yeah. I was all caught up, and I'm like, awesome, because I have a wedding to decorate for tomorrow. And so I was like, woohoo, I'm doing good. I can work on my doohickeys tonight. And then we started our discussion, and I'm like, what are they talking about?
It's okay. So basically basically, this girl just got a job as a manager. There's a little bit of controversy because she's so much younger than the other person that thought that she was going to be manager, but she's more qualified because she knows the tech side of this tech company. The lady was good at managing, but didn't know anything about computers and stuff like that. And so there's a little bit of a political issue there. But she is more qualified to be a manager, so that's why they put her in that position. But then she came across she has these two employees, and she doesn't know whether to fire them. They're not really contributing well. The first employee, I don't remember his name, Terry. So he was basically hired by the upper CEOs and upper managers because he's like their friend, and he's not qualified in any way, and he didn't pass any of the interview process. Like, he wasn't approved by the people that generally do that. He was just kind of put there, and he spends his days like asking other people what he should do, and it takes a lot of time from these, and it's really difficult. But he's generally like a nice guy and stuff. She just, it's bringing down the team. But when she tried to give him a low score, which is a 2.5, it just generally start reviewing him for being fired if she gives him a 2.5 on his review. When she tried to do that, one of her were like, what? Just give him a 3. He's fine. And they're like, how bad is he? She's like, dude, he's really bad. And so her job is kind of in a somewhat of a precarious situation if she goes forward and tries to fire him. And what to do with that. The second guy, he contributes a little bit more. The reason he's there is because they acquired another company, and they didn't fire any of the employees from that other company. But he was like a call center manager, and they don't need a call center manager anymore. He ended up on her team because he needed a spot, but he doesn't know any technical mumbo jumbo, and they need to know technical stuff. And so he tries a little bit with the logistics of organizing things. So he does he does like a half a person's job, because he does help in that area, but it's not quite enough to have him on the team. But then when she was about to, suggest firing him, he went and got sick, and he was in the hospital for like 7 months and stuff. And she, it was kind of a sad situation. And then he finally came back, and he's working even less than he was before, just like his productivity. And so to do with that, she says, also her manager her boss doesn't like him because he's kind of outspoken, and he has kind of rubbed him the wrong way too many times by telling him his opinion on his decisions, because he comes from a smaller company and it's not his place in this company. And so even though he fits on the team slightly better than Terry, her boss wants him fired and doesn't want Terry fired. But they kind of both need to be fired. But anyway, so we just kind of have to discuss whether or not what she should do with those situations.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you so
Gotcha.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. The question number 1 is, what impact does Terry have on the company's bottom line? Please.
So Terry can't make any of his decisions. He can't analyze and prioritize, and he's always asking everybody else, what do you think we should do? So bottom line is he's a negative. I mean, he can't do anything on his own. So he's helpless.
Yes. Sarah,
Well, I think that okay.
What impact does Phil have on the company bottom line?
Well, I mean, he's clearly a drain of resources because of his health issues. I mean, that's kind of discrimination to fire him because of that. He helps in some way, so I don't think he's as big of a drain financially as Terry. Terry not only is wasting the money that they're paying him because he's not contributing it pretty much at all. He's also wasting the efficiency of the dollars they pay the other employees because he's spending their time to get his job done. And so, yeah, they're both kind of a financial suck on the company. They take away and don't contribute much.
Was this class where we were learning about if you have somebody that's a negative influence on the team, a negative influencer? Was it this class that brings down by like way more than 5%? It brings down the productivity of the whole group. Is that this class?
Yeah.
So it sounds like that could be happening in this case for sure.
Yes. There are two different situations with this. Low qualification in the performance review. Situation of both are different. One of can improve a little more, but the other, the good position for him. The new manager need to make a decision about that. What obligation does the manager have to the company? That information. Jennifer, can you tell me? The manager's obligation in this situation.
I think the manager definitely has the obligation to document the things that she's seeing. And I think she needs to document what she's seeing the impact is on the other coworkers around them too. And I think it would even be wise, especially for Phil or Terry, it sounds like if he's continually asking somebody else and they're constantly having to walk him through something and to train him in a sense, she needs to document that and how long it's taking per day or for each situation. And so that she can bring that to her manager. And I think that this is a discussion that she definitely needs to have with her manager, and she needs to be frank, but she needs to be prepared with examples and documentation of all of the ways that this is impacting their group. I think that's really the biggest thing. But I think that they have the obligation to the other employees to make it a place that actually flows a little bit better so that they don't feel like they're constantly having to do somebody else's work also.
Yeah, I think because the company is pretty small, it's having, employment is one of the most expensive costs. And these two people really can affect the success of this company. And I think that she might not have enough responsibility that she can just say, no, we're going to fire these people for sure. But she does need to make a really good case and really convince the upper level people that is, good, important for the company, because what she sees day to day is not what they see day to day.
Yes.
So she knows the details of why these people are not a good fit.
In more when the company, the earnings are very low compared with they had the earning of 300,000. It's low compared with the income that the company have. If they cannot lose money, and because it's for one people that don't make great contribution to the work, to the team. Responsibility the manager to work in this and be sure that all the resources that the company have could be in the benefit of the company. Yes, and it's one situation that he needs to analyze. Charlene, you will say something else?
No, I agree. I think she's a much better manager than the previous one. She's willing to make those changes where, you know, she's willing to think about going up against her manager's decision not to give him a 2.5. So I think she's a better manager than the one before her.
Thank you. Other implication that we will analyze in this part is about the first topic, employ at will and exception. What legal obligation could the manager have to Terry, for example? Obligation with Terry, obligation with Phil.
So I think Terry doesn't don't really have a special legal obligation to him because you have not reviewed him as doing well. Because I think that once you say you're doing well to Terry, then that kind of changes the situation. It turns it into a, what's it called, a side contract kind of a thing. If you tell him he's doing better than he is, and then you end up firing him in a couple months. So as long as she goes forward with her opinion that he needs a 2.5 and then fires him, I think that she's okay with Terry. As far as the other guy, that's kind of a tough spot. I think that she does need to. I think Terry, she could just fire him on the spot, but the other guy, she might need to enter and go to a PIP and work on firing him over a period of time to avoid the issues with stuff. So she can compile the evidence saying, look, he doesn't contribute, he doesn't do his job, things like that, because there are some legal ramifications there.
Okay.
I agree, and I think if she finds a lot of resistance from her boss, I think maybe then she needs to say, then we need to get these two trained. If you're not willing to let them go, I think she definitely needs to document, especially for Phil, if he's been in the hospital, if she wants to let him go. I agree with what Sierra said, that she could probably let Terry go on the spot, and then Phil, she would have to document a little bit more. But I think, you know, there needs to be some sort of training there whatsoever, or some sort of training if they're going to stay, for sure.
I think they may have an issue with Terry, though, because his previous boss had been giving him 3.5s. So he could come in and say, look, you know, everybody but you said I was doing good. So I think he may have a bit of a case for an implied contract. But you're right. I don't think Phil has anything.
Yes, for information, we can analyze that maybe Terry is in his age, 40, almost 40. He can say, oh, is discrimination for my age. Phil can say that is he can be fighting his disability. And it's two kind of situations that could happen and are a legal implication, could have. Okay, now we'll speak the legal implication. Ahora we will speak about the ethical implication. Say, what ethical obligation does the manager have with Terry? Sierra?
Well, I think that she needs to just be very clear with him and explain to him, these are the issues. This is why you're not working on this team, and perhaps maybe give him an opportunity to change that. I don't know if she said that already to him though, so that's where it would be different. Just, you know, does it openly, clearly, and concisely trying to fire him or moving forward, instead of, like, you know, slandering his name or something that she can also do to get him fired. She just needs to make sure that she's letting him know what is going on and why.
Okay, thank you, Sierra. And now, what is the so does the manager have to fill? Charlene?
I would think the same thing. I mean, ethically, if she feels he's an underperformer, it's her job as a manager to let him know that. And I mean, she could help him, you know, look for another job if there is something in the company. But ethically, if she feels it's not right and he's not performing and he's dragging the team down, her obligation would be to let him go, or at least talk to him about it.
What is the ethical obligation does the manager have to the company? Can you hear me? What ethical obligation does the manager have to?
I think the same thing. If she thinks he's dragging the company down, that he's not helping them in any way, to talk to him and try and change it, and if not, let him go.
What is the obligation with other employers? I'm sorry.
I would think the same thing. If I was another employee and I saw somebody underperforming or that was always at my desk asking questions, slowing me down, it would drag morale down. It would drag the team down.
Yeah, it's really unfair to the other employees that are contributing at 90 to 100%, contributing like 15 to 20%, and he's getting his full paycheck too. It's right to keep him there.
I'm sorry. I think it's important that because it's not about obligation we feel because he's sick and everyone in the company is around him and try to take care of him. There are some kind of is a one man that is sick and he can feel or she can feel very concerning about this, but had a responsibility with the business. I had a responsibility with the for do this kind of the work. Does the manager have to herself? Jennifer.
Well, I think it's important.
Can you hear me, Jennifer?
Honest with herself and does her job correctly, despite what other people are going to think, because it's hard for this position, you know, and she has put a lot of effort into making this team be really effective, and she's been successful in that. And it's you know, she needs to make sure that she's not putting other people above herself too much. If she were to keep them on the team, then she would be sacrificing a part of her own responsibility and her own reputation as a manager.
And it's hard because she needs to face the of the CEO and the principal, the CEO, then say, you don't need firing Terry. Is personal obligation that she feel, this is then is wrong. We need he's not doing good her job. Is one situation is what the truth, what is the right. Doesn't matter than other. They might have. I need be writing in all my issues, not only because other want to keep these people. I need is healthy for the social activities. I don't know. Is the situation, but I think it's hard situation. Company facing this kind of situation, in special, there are situations where there are workers that are recommended for someone in the top of the company, person that you cannot touch or say anything because it's then of the owner of by the CEO. Yes, it's hard because you work very hard and this person doesn't work very hard. Is really bad for the morale of the team. One are doing bad the job and they continue in the company. It's hard. Now, guys, human resources practice. How well is the company in the case doing with human resources practice generally? Company in the case doing with its practice generally.
Well, I think that they talked about when their normal hiring process, which wasn't used for Terry. You know, their normal hiring process, they have to have approvals to hire, or else a person doesn't move on in the interview process, things like that. They have a pretty like established system, you know, and because it's like standard across the company, it makes it more fair, which is good for HR. Because they didn't do that with Terry, it kind of made that a little. But generally, I think that is established pretty well. And then I think as a manager, she's dealing with the HR process pretty well. You know, they do the reviews every 6 months, and they base it on specific, reasoning, and she does really well to explain to each something wrong, what they're doing right, all of those things. And so I think generally they're doing pretty good as far as HR goes.
Sierra. How do they hire?
Well, normally they go through, like Sierra said, a series of interviews. But in Terry's case, he was buddies with him, so they brought him in. And in Phil's case, it was an acquisition. So they didn't, I think it's company policy not to fire him if they acquire a new company. But normally, I agree with her. They do several interviews that should weed out bad candidates.
For Terry was the exception, no? Because the other part of the company or the team, the workers, this is the exception. Need to be the hiring process. How do manage people and give them feedback? Sarah? And
so they get feedback pretty well at review time, so that's consistent. But then on we don't know a lot about the whole company, but on her team, they get feedback, per assignment they do, every project they work on. You did this correctly, you did this wrong, do this differently in the future. So they get pretty good feedback when they're on her team, at least.
What is the PIP for?
Well, sadly, in this company, the PIP is only for documenting and making sure everything's done so they can terminate them. Normally, a PIP should be where there's an issue, you have a meeting and you try and resolve it, and then if the employee turns around, they stay and life gets good, and eventually their PIP falls off.
I agree.
Right.
I think it was originally created, but they said they brought it over from Microsoft, right?
I think so.
I think it was originally created to fix issues, but right now it's just kind of used to, if at some point after you fire them some legal issue comes up, so they have all that documentation.
This is than the people that we will fire leave this process and be sure that and clean the desk and this part of the process in the people in the company. Yeah. There are no something else to do, only that we will be fired. And for this manager, he doesn't like this kind of the process. He say, okay, it's firing. He said that he actually doesn't agree with this kind of procedures for this part. Do you think, do you agree with the way the company uses PIPs?
No. I mean, I guess it covers them legally, so in some way it's benefiting the company, but it's not very fair to the employee, and in this case, to the manager, because I think she's more willing to work with people.
Important that it's there, for sure. Like Charlene said, for the basic legal issues, but it can be used to increase efficiency. I think that they're not using it for all of its value. You know, if they actually used it to help an employee become a better employee, they're better off in the long run.
So from what I've been able to catch up on reading as we're doing this, and from what I'm hearing you guys saying, it sounds like the PIPs are not used correctly, and it's more of a formality than what it's supposed to be doing, and it's more just covering their butt than it is to work something out. So no, I would agree that they're not using them correctly.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. This manager can make good decisions about individuals, or does she seem to be by bias that will be hard to overcome?
I think
And she had the freedom to make good decision. Okay.
I think it's really going to be challenging because her job really is affected by her bosses of her, and if they think if that puts gives her a bad reputation to the CEO of the company, this pretty small company, that is going to affect her in the long run. And so it might even be better for her to just keep them on as some unimportant employee, but it's not good for the company and for her reputation as someone who is honest, and someone who says what she's thinking and tries to create a really efficient team. So she has a really difficult decision to make. To this in her place, just because I'm kind of a chicken, I would just be like, yeah, okay, you get a 3, it's fine. We'll work on that later. But I think based on her personality, that she's probably going to make the decision to at least right now, and maybe work on firing the other guy over a longer period of time.
Yeah, I think she's definitely capable of making a good decision. The question is, will she be able to act on it, or will upper management come and say, I don't care what you think, we're keeping Terry or whatever. But I definitely think she has the ability, and she's a clear thinker and she's read and write. She knows what to do, but whether or not she'll be able to act on it, if your upper management tells you, I don't care, do it regardless, you either have to say okay or go look for another job yourself. So I agree with Sierra. It's a tricky situation.
I think so too, but I think she could do, I think she's already made the decision. She's already shown that she can make good judgment by picking these two out and picking out the bottom line problem, and that is that they're not productive. And so it shows that her judgment is good. And I think if she presented it the right way, I think if she went a more monetary route and she showed them in a monetary way how much money they're costing the company, and not just that they're costing the company that much money, but they're not making the company money either. So not only are they going this way, but a new employee could be going this way. So the gap could actually be a lot larger than management probably sees. And I think if she presents it in a way, especially for a small company that's only making $300,000 a year, I think that could be a huge impact. And I think she could do it. I just think she's going to have to really find the right way to show them how that's going to be.
Okay. I want to commit to decision about what is the decision that we need to take in this situation in both.
So I'm kind of like Sierra. I don't like to be a hard-nosed person. I would try and find each of them another job. Phil, because he confronts managers and that, I would see if like he could go to the auditing department. Maybe he could be a QA person, just find him somewhere within the company other than where they're at. But bottom line, I think that if I couldn't, and if I were her, to be true to myself, I'd have to let him go.
Okay. What about you, Sierra? What is your decision about this situation?
Well, first of all, I think that particularly Terry, I doubt that he's being fulfilled in any way by his job. It's probably equally as frustrating for him to work here as it is for us to watch him work there. So working on firing him would be, I think, my first step, because I think that he brings the group rather than just not contributing to it. Whereas the other guy doesn't necessarily bring it down. He just struggles with really contributing to it. So I would work on trying to pretty much immediately fire Terry. And then because of the health issues and because of the, that he has really put in real effort into trying, what's his name, Phil, I would work on putting him on PIP, but like actually using it for what it's for and trying to see if he can actually, learn what is needed. Though what he lacks is technical knowledge, and that kind of takes a lot of and training to learn. So I think maybe put him on a PIP, try to get him to function better as a team member, but then also be looking for a better position to put him in the company. At the end of the day, though, if those are not successful, then I think it's good to fire him, but just give him some notice, so that he can find another job. So like a good amount of notice, like at least maybe he can, especially because he's probably got all those hospital bills and stuff. It's it's kind of a sensitive situation, and they don't want to be in trouble for some discrimination for any disabilities or things like that.
Okay, thank you.
This is kind of reminding me of when we were talking about the mentoring program. I mean, I think this is a really good opportunity specifically for Phil. So he was acquired by the company, basically, and he was doing call center stuff. But it sounds like he has some skills, but he's just not in the right place. So maybe they need to reevaluate, like Charlene was saying, and put him somewhere else. So I was looking back through it, and they have over 600 employees. So if I am remembering correctly. And so it seems like there's got to be another place that he would even be more comfortable. And if he is more comfortable, he's going to be more productive. And that might be the same with Terry. And so maybe there is another place for Terry as well. But I think definitely Phil can, it sounds like they need to start over with Phil and go through an interview process and then figure out where to put him.
And as you were saying that, I thought it's not even that you need to go and find him a position. The position probably doesn't even exist that he can really contribute with. You can talk to him and make a list of your skills, kind of analyze the company, and maybe suggest some things that you could do, and we can maybe create a position that will help if of course we agree that will be beneficial for the company. Like his mind can go into placing him in the company as well.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Now we will Charlene and Sarah had the opportunity to read the of this case.
I did.
Sí. Was very interesting the conclusion of this of the study and the way that she, Terry and Phil. I'm so sad for Phil. It was a very sad final. We need read. I would like Charlene, if you have the story with you, help me and read this part because you can read more clarity.
Okay, sure.
Help with this, and maybe the third part. And Sarah, you have this part. You can open the second part and read the Phil's part.
Okay, so here's Terry.
Okay.
What she ultimately did with Terry. So I decided to give Terry a 2.5. I was very scared about doing it. I sat him down before the performance reviews came in, and I said, Terry, let's talk about what's going to happen when you get your review back. I'm going to give you a 2.5. He said, what? I thought I would get a 3.0. Terry said he knew he wasn't going to get a 3.5, but he was definitely not happy about my plan. I talked with him and said we had recently hired a lot of people who were really superstars. I reminded him that on interviews, my no-hire rate was about half of what most people's were. We now had really good people on the team, and he acknowledged this. I said things like, Terry, let's look at who we've hired. What do you think about Michael? He would say, well, Michael is a superstar. He is really great. He said the same thing about several others. Then I said, these are people that we are hiring onto the team. This is the new makeup of the team. How do you think you compare against these people on the team? He was honest and said, I couldn't do what they could do. And I said, do you want to be constantly on the edge? You know there is a forced curve here. Do you want to be on a team where you are the weakest link on the team? Is that good for your career? Then I added that if I was on a team and I wasn't the top performer, I wouldn't want to stay on the team. I said I would feel like spending all of my time like I was floundering. He seemed to accept that. So I said, Terry, listen, what happens after a 2.5 is that you get a PIP. I'm not going to put you on a PIP, and I don't want to put you on a PIP. I don't think it's respectful of people to put them on a PIP. I mentioned someone else who was fired and told Terry that this guy was on a PIP and reminded him of how the guy was escorted into his office and got a half an hour to clean out his desk. I said, Terry, I'm not going to let you go down that path. I like you as a person, and that's just dumb. But if you're not doing well in the team, I can tell you both as a friend and a manager that for your sake, this is not a good position for you to be in. So let's skip the PIP. Let's forget about all of that. I want to help you find a better job in the company. And if you can't find one, then why don't you go out with a party, a big bang, you know, with your head up high so that you never were on a PIP. It was a pretty heavy conversation, but he seemed to like the results at the end. I think he liked the fact that I told him he wasn't going on a PIP and I wasn't going to do that to him. He asked how long he had, and I said, well, we will both know when you've had enough time to find another job. I'm not going to put you on any hard deadline. Why don't you give it an honest, fair shot? I don't know what that is, maybe 3 months or something. I'm not going to give you a date, but I think that in 3 months, if there is a position for you in the company, you could find it. I told my boss what I was doing. Terry spent time looking for another job, but everyone would go and ask his peers about him, and none of them had any good feedback about Terry, so he couldn't get another job in the company. We had a big party for him. He wrote a letter to everyone saying that he was moving on to spend more time on scuba, which was his real passion. Eventually, he got a job in an engineering company and was promoted to manager. I heard he was doing a great job there because it's pure engineering, math and equations, which doesn't require analytical decision making. He considers me a friend and we keep in touch. So that's what happened with Terry.
Very interesting. Very good way that did of this part, because it's good man, it's good person, but it's in the right wrong activity for very nice. Okay, Sierra, can you help me with Phil?
Yes. Letting Phil go would have looked like we were firing him because he had been sick. Plus, he had been sick, and you don't fire a guy like that. And you just rallied the whole company around this guy, and everyone is so glad he has survived and he became. What happened is that when he was gone, we hired a replacement for him. And I asked HR what happened when he got better and was coming back. And HR said they would create a new slot for him. So when he came back, he was just an extra person on the team. It wasn't really a problem for me, except for the time it took to manage him. I also had to make him happy. He'd been there for a long time and had never been promoted, so I had to manage his expectations. I gave him a 3.0 in his reviews. The time it took me to manage him wasn't a big deal, so that was basically it. My boss had a vendetta against him. He decided to leave the soft goods team when I left the company. He moved to another team. It took him because he was a free slot. I think he ended up on a team, which was the only team that would take him because no one wanted to work on the international team. Their job was just to take the basic product and make it French friendly or German friendly. We continued to be friends, and I'm threes. About a year later, he was diagnosed with inoperable brain cancer, and then he had to leave the company for good. He died not too long after that. Oh my gosh, that's really sad.
It's sad, but a great decision with him to keep him in the company. And this part of the human resources is the human part, no? Because can fire him in some moment. The result is to do this, but in the part, the human part, the ethical part, it's hard because it's a man that was sick for a long time and was a good decision in that moment for me. And in the business, the time work this part, they be very kind or put your heart in this thing, but in this situation is the right thing to do. Okay. the manager do well? Jennifer, how did the manager do well?
I think she was upfront with it. And I think it's really difficult to be the person to say, hey, you're not doing well. But she did it in a really respectful way. And I really like how it was resolved when especially when she told Terry, I'm not going to put you on a PIP. And I think that made a difference to him. And I think it made a difference on how he handled the situation too. I mean, I think that she was just honest and she didn't let her boss bully her into a decision that was actually bad for the company. So I thought she did very, very well in that situation. And I hope I can be like that if I ever have to be in a situation like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think the fact that she was so empathetic to him really made the difference. That she took the time ahead before she met with him to think about, like, if I were in this situation, what would I want my manager to do? You know, how would I want to be treated? And then she explained that thought process to him. I think that really helped him.
Yeah, thank you. What can we learn from this case about making decisions about termination? What we learn in this situation?
I think that they're really complex, and you have to look at both the company and the person and be honest in what's really feasible and what's out there. Just that it's a lot more complex.
I think it's really important that you don't just look at the bottom line of the company and you don't just like look at the efficiency of your team, but you take into account all of the the ethical obligations there, like how is it being? There was a lot of that in the case, and then just understanding that a lot of times when people are not working well with a team in your company, that they could be doing really good somewhere else, that people aren't just fulfilled by getting, people want to contribute generally, and they want to be effective, and if they're not being effective to that point, you need to stop kind of running it like a charity and let them go so that they can go accomplish something somewhere else.
I agree. I think that's what I learned from this too was, I really loved her point that she said that must be frustrating for you to be the person who's not contributing, as much as everybody else is either. And that's a really good point, and how frustrating it must be for him. And it sounds like when he did make the change, it was better for him. And I think he saw that afterwards. I think that was a really good lesson.
What do you learn that you can apply in future situations?
I think just to make sure I look at it from their perspective, try and step in their shoes, have a heart, put some compassion in there.
Yes.
I think probably doing the right thing sometimes, even though you're scared that it's going to affect your own job, sticking with what you believe rather than just caving to conflict,
Yeah, I think not to be afraid to actually make a tough decision.
Yes, thank you so much, all. Wonderful job. Thank you for your commentaries. This is the last part. Stop the broadcast now.